ಇಬ್ಬಂದಿ ಇಬ್ಬಂದಿಯಲ್ಲಿಯೇ ದರ್ಶನ ಕಾಣೋ.
Hello, Shekhar Purna here. Date 23/7/2026. Subject: Yet another agricultural land, family genealogy, crime and justice. Not too long ago, I am now 71 years old. About 50 years back, I was amazed to witness the grandeur of that house. It wasn't just a small hamlet of 30 to 40 houses. There stood a massive 32-column traditional house. About 5 or 6 years ago, driven by a desire to revisit that house tied to the memories of my childhood and adolescence, I went back to that village. It became painfully clear right before my eyes that the place where the 32-column house once stood had suffered complete destruction with not even a single small brick left. A house is just a small building. If it goes, so be it. Perhaps everyone could come together and build it somewhere else if needed. However, all the elders of my family today remain only as memories, having turned into ancestral spirits who visit once a year. Amidst this tragedy, animosity has reared its head among family members, creating a distressing state where they cannot even look each other in the eye. Whenever the eldest son of the family felt upset, his passion for theatre took over. Playing the harmonium, stretching out his hand to accept ragi, paddy and a bit of cash given by farmers, a personality of that kind. On the other hand, the younger son, though in a government job, had embodied all the slick and cunning arts that come with such employment. His mind was constantly scheming to secure property and wealth for himself, his family and his children. When all these facts came to my light, the legal actions I undertook and the verdict delivered in the Taluk Revenue Officer's court when presented before everyone here reflect how villages and families fracture, serving not just as a judgment but a piece of history. As usual, this piece has two parts. The first is this introduction, while the second part is the analysis done by AI, to which I have tried to lead you. Please comprehend this introduction and the analysis, keeping in mind that it is not merely a court verdict. Requesting you to receive this. Shekhar Purna, 23/7/2026.
I want you to just imagine something for a second. Picture waking up one morning, having your coffee, going about your completely normal day.
Right, just a regular Tuesday.
Exactly. And then you discover that, legally speaking, you have been completely erased from your own family tree.
Oh, wow. That's heavy.
Right. And we aren't talking about, like, a clerical error made by some overworked stranger in a basement office somewhere.
Like a typo or something.
Yeah, not a typo. We are talking about being deliberately wiped out of existence on paper by your own sibling.
Wow.
And the motive, it's just to steal a piece of your inheritance.
It is a genuinely terrifying thought because as a society, we put so much blind faith in the permanence of public records.
We really do. We just trust the paperwork.
We assume that, because we are breathing and walking around, the system knows we exist and just automatically acknowledges our rights. But the reality of administration is, well, it's much more fragile. When someone decides to weaponize the structural weaknesses of that exact same system against you, those unquestioned pieces of paper can literally rewrite reality overnight.
Okay, let's unpack this, because today we're looking at a translated 2022 legal order. It's from the Court of the Assistant Commissioner in the Madhugiri subdivision over in Karnataka, India.
Yes.
And this specific case was presided over by Assistant Commissioner Samapa Kadakola.
Which is a fantastic piece of source material, by the way.
It really is. So our mission for this deep dive is to figure out how a massive, highly calculated fraud was pulled off from the inside out.
And maybe more importantly, how a really meticulous paper trail eventually became the fraudster's own worst enemy.
Exactly.
Because on the surface, if you just glance at the source material, it might look like a dense, dry, bureaucratic document, just about land revenue and inheritance.
Just a bunch of legal jargon.
Right. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, this is actually a masterclass in administrative manipulation.
Oh, absolutely.
It completely exposes the length people will go to when they think they understand the machinery of government better than the actual people currently running it.
Yeah, so let's start with the crime itself, because the sheer audacity of the prime respondent here is just off the charts.
It really is something else.
We are looking at a patriarch named H. Vasudevaro. He passes away, and he leaves behind nearly 5 acres of prime real estate.
Which is a significant amount of land.
Yeah, spread across a couple of plots in Dadagondanahalli village. And, when a patriarch dies, standard legal procedure dictates that the land should be partitioned fairly among all the legitimate heirs.
But that doesn't happen here, does it?
No, it does not.
So the source details that Vasudevarawa had 4 children. That's 2 sons and 2 daughters.
4 kids.
Right. But one of those sons, a man named H.V. Romaro, decides he just doesn't want to split the pie 4 ways.
Of course not.
He wants the entire property for himself. So he initiates what is known as a Poti transfer.
A Poti transfer.
Yeah, or a demise transfer process. His goal is to have the kata.
Wait, what's the kata?
Right. The kata is essentially the master title account. It's what determines who is liable to pay the property taxes.
Got it. Okay.
And he also wants the RTC, which is the formal record of rights, tenancy, and crops. He wants both of these transferred exclusively into his own name.
Right.
To do this, he tells the government a massive, undeniable lie. He claims he is Vasudevara's only child.
He literally erases his brother and 2 sisters from the family history. Just poof, gone.
Completely gone on paper.
And the mechanism for doing this is what just blows my mind. Because Romaro is not some random guy, taking a wild guess at how to forge a document.
No, not at all.
He is a retired Sharastadar from a neighboring sub-district.
Yeah, and for those who might not know, a Sharastadar is a senior revenue official.
Oh, wow. So he's an insider.
Exactly. He spent his entire career in the revenue department. He knows the exact procedures for a property transfer inside and out.
So he's not guessing.
Not even a little. He knows the specific forms to file, whose desk they cross, and probably most importantly, he understands the psychology of the clerks reviewing those forms.
Right.
He knows exactly what they're looking for and, crucially, what they are not looking for.
Man, it makes me think of like a retired casino dealer who goes back to his old floor to count cards.
That's a perfect analogy, actually.
Right, because he isn't just playing a game. He knows exactly where the security cameras are pointing and, where the blind spots are in the house.
Yeah, he knows exactly where to stand so nobody sees what his hands are doing.
But I gotta ask, does knowing the bureaucratic loopholes make someone a criminal mastermind? Or does it just make them overconfident and clumsy? Because playing a massive system like that requires a lot of moving parts.
Well, what's fascinating here is how he exploited the system's inherent trust in its own paperwork.
What do you mean?
Well, to get the land transferred solely to his name, Romero didn't just walk into the local office and ask for it. He needed documented proof that he was an only child.
Okay, so he needed a fake document.
Right. So he bypassed the village where the land actually sits and where his family's history is, like common knowledge.
Because if he goes there, everyone's going to be like, we know your brother.
Exactly. Instead, he went to a completely different location. He went to Tumakuru City.
Well, that's smart. Because in a busy city office, he's just another guy with a piece of paper. Nobody there knows his siblings.
Precisely. He found a deputy tahsildar, which is a local revenue officer in Tumakuru.
Okay.
And he swore a formal affidavit stating he was the sole heir.
Wow.
The official there operating purely on the sworn affidavit of a former senior revenue official.
Because they trust him. He's one of them.
Exactly. They issued a verified family tree certificate. Ramaral then took that official government-stamped lie back to the office in Madhugiri to process the actual land transfer.
Oh, man. So he used the credibility of one government office to trick another.
He really did.
It's essentially bureaucratic money laundering, You take a dirty lie, you pass it through a sterile, disconnected city office, and it comes out the other side as a clean, stamped, undeniable truth.
That is exactly what it is. And the craziest part is that for a little while, it worked.
Wait, really? It went through?
Yeah. The system approved what they call a mutation.
A mutation?
Yeah, which is basically updating the genetic makeup of the public property ledger to reflect new ownership. So the land was officially in his name.
So he actually got away with it. He
Right.
successfully manipulated the system he used to work for.
For a minute, yes. But overconfidence is almost always the downfall of the insider.
Always.
Ramarao built this alternate reality on paper, but he forgot one very important thing. The government keeps everything.
Oh, okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Because paperwork is a double-edged sword.
It is.
You use it to build your fake reality, but unless your memory is absolutely flawless,
Yeah.
your past filings are always sitting in some cabinet somewhere waiting to destroy you.
Always.
So the appellant in this case, a man named Chandrasekhar, starts digging into this sudden land transfer.
Right.
And instead of just accepting the newly stamped family tree, he goes looking for loose threads. And he unearths a civil suit from the year 2008.
Now, I keep in mind, Ramarao committed his fraud in 2019.
Right.
So this civil suit is over a decade old.
Over a decade. And who was the plaintiff in that 2008 lawsuit? It was Ramarao himself.
Yep.
He had filed a lawsuit for a partition of a completely different piece of property. But, and this is the kicker, to get his share of that different property back in 2008, he had to submit a family tree to the civil court.
Right.
And in that document, filed by his own hand, he explicitly listed all 4 children of Vasudevarao.
Wow.
He listed himself, his brother, and his 2 sisters.
Because back in 2008, he needed the court to know there were 4 siblings, so he could legally claim his specific 1/4 share of that particular property.
Oh my gosh. He played himself.
He really did. He provided the exact weapon needed to prove he was committing perjury a decade later.
It is just like pulling a single loose thread that unravels a heavily tailored suit.
It's like a bank robber dropping his own driver's license on the way out of the vault.
Exactly. But wait, I have to ask, in a modern legal system, how does a literal court document from a decade ago just vanish from the radar of a local government office?
That's a great question.
I mean, how on earth did the local Tahsildar approve the fake family tree in 2019 when there was a literal court document from 2008 proving otherwise? Are these departments just not talking to each other?
Well, this highlights a massive structural vulnerability in how property administration actually functions globally.
Okay, how so?
We tend to view the government as one giant, omniscient brain that knows everything about everyone.
Right, like they have this massive unified database.
Exactly. But in reality, it is a series of entirely disconnected silos.
Silos, yeah.
Civil courts handle disputes, equity, and litigation. Revenue departments handle land records, crop details, and property taxes. And historically, their mandates never required them to speak to each other.
So wait, the revenue department's only job is to figure out who to send the tax bill to,
Right.
while the civil court's job is to figure out who actually has the moral and legal right to the land.
That is the perfect way to look at it, and these databases are rarely integrated even today.
That is wild.
So when Ramara submitted his application for a title transfer in 2019, the revenue clerk wasn't running a comprehensive background search through a decade of civil court archives.
They just don't have the time or the tools.
No, they were just looking at the documents placed right in front of them.
Right.
If the procedural checklist says, need a family tree certificate, and Ramaro hands them a family tree certificate officially stamped by the Tumakuru City office.
The clerk simply checks the box.
Exactly. They check the box and move on.
It's just blind compliance to the process. The clerk isn't incentivized to be a detective. They're incentivized to process the paperwork and clear their desk.
And bad actors exploit this gap constantly. They know they can tell one story to a civil judge to get a favorable outcome in a dispute, and a completely contradictory story to a revenue inspector a decade later to get a title transfer.
Because they know the 2 offices aren't swapping notes.
Right. The bureaucracy relies heavily on the assumed integrity of the applicant.
Which is a dangerous vulnerability when the applicant is a former official gaming the system.
Absolutely.
So the court overseeing this 2022 appeal is now staring at 2 completely contradictory realities existing on official paper.
2 different timelines, basically.
Yeah, you have the 2008 reality where there are 4 siblings, and the 2019 reality where Ramarao is an only child.
Right.
Both have official stamps. Both were submitted by the very same man. How does a judge actually untangle this mess when the paperwork just cancels itself out?
Well, they have to leave the paperwork behind and go to the ground.
To the ground, like physically.
Yes. When documents conflict like this, the legal system has a mechanism to ascertain the physical truth, and it's known as mahazar.
A mahazar. Okay, so this is where the story shifts from sterile city paperwork to the messy, detailed reality of village life.
Exactly. The revenue investigating officers had to conduct a local community inquiry in Dodayalkuru village.
Okay, so they actually went to talk to the neighbors.
Right, and this process of local inquiry is fascinating because when Ramarao initially got his fake family tree, as we mentioned, he secured an affidavit in Tumakuru City.
Far away from the actual land.
Very far. He lived in the city. Now, when the initial notice for the land transfer, which is this public notice called a Form 12, meant to invite objections when it was published in the village, it actually tricked some people.
Wait, really? The villagers fell for it.
The source notes that initially, yes, some locals assumed Vasudevarao might actually only have one son.
Wow. which just shows you how distance, time, and urbanization can really muddy a community's memory.
Yeah.
I mean, if a family isn't actively living right there on the land, out of sight becomes out of mind.
Exactly. But not everyone forgot.
Enter the hero of the village.
Right. This is where the pushback happens. A native of Dadalkuru village, a man named Gopalakrishna, steps up.
Okay, Gopalakrishna.
Now, Gopalakrishna was currently residing in a different city, Mysuru, but his roots and residential documents tied him back to the village.
So he had skin in the game, community-wise.
Right. And he initiates a much deeper inquiry.
He essentially forces the investigating officers to look closer.
Yes. And when they conduct a thorough mahazar, when they really start asking the collective community about Vasudevarau's children, the dam breaks.
The truth just spills out.
Completely spills out. The village didn't just remember that Vasudevarau had more than one child. They provided granular, specific details that no fake city affidavit could ever replicate.
Oh, like what?
They told the investigators, Vasudevarau had two sons. The first is Satyanarayana, and the second is Ramarao.
They named names.
Oh, they went even deeper. They knew that the first son, Satyanarayana, had passed away.
Okay.
And they knew he had two wives. They even named them for the official record. They said the first wife, Kamalama, is deceased, and the second wife, Padmavatama, is still alive.
That is incredibly specific. But wait, it feels like a battle between a city notary's rubber stamp and the collective memory of a village.
It really does.
In a modern legal system, why does the village memory still hold so much weight? Isn't community memory incredibly subjective? I mean, people hold grudges, they forget details over decades, they play favorites. How can a modern legal court trust village gossip over a notarized, officially stamped affidavit?
Well, this raises an important question about the fundamental reliability of documentation versus testimony.
Right.
You have to remember what a mahazar actually is. It isn't just asking one person for their opinion or casually listening to village gossip.
It's more formal than that.
Yes, it is a structural, cross-referenced inquiry by the community. See, bureaucratic papers, especially in a massive, siloed system, can be forged or manipulated by a single corrupt individual.
Right, Ramarao proved that.
Exactly. All he needed was one negligent official in a city office to create a completely alternate reality on paper.
Just one weak link in the chain, and the paperwork becomes a lie.
But a collective community inquiry is incredibly difficult to manipulate. You can bribe one clerk, sure, but you cannot easily bribe, coordinate, or silence an entire village.
That makes a lot of sense.
Especially when they possess intricate, historically verifiable knowledge of family lineages, deceased brothers and multiple wives.
You can't fake that level of detail across 50 people.
Exactly. And the court understands this dynamic perfectly. They recognize that ground truth, the lived consensus reality of the community, is the ultimate failsafe against administrative fraud.
So when the paperwork contradicts itself, you don't look for more paperwork.
No, you look at the people who actually live next door.
That is so poetic. The
Yeah.
very system Ramarao manipulated to steal the land was ultimately corrected by the people who actually live on that land.
That's brilliant.
So with a village full of witnesses screaming fraud and a forged city document screaming legitimacy, we arrive at the climax of this whole ordeal, the verdict.
Right.
Because the fall of Ramarao is swift, and the way the court reverses his fraud is just something to behold.
And we really should highlight the incredible effort of the appellant Chandrasekhar here.
Oh man, yeah. Let's talk about Chandrasekhar. He fought this entire case in person.
Yes, he did.
He didn't even hire a lawyer. He went up against a seasoned, retired revenue official who had formal legal representation.
Right. The source notes an advocate filed a vakalath, which basically means they were formally hired to represent Ramarao in court.
And Chandrasekhar just walked in and laid out the facts himself.
Just him and the truth.
He presented the 2008 civil suit, he highlighted the conflicting family tree, and he let the overwhelming evidence of the village inquiry speak for itself.
So, Assistant Commissioner Samepa Katakola looks at this mountain of evidence, and he acts decisively.
What does he do?
He completely sets aside that fraudulent mutation order from 2019 that transferred the land to Ramarao.
Okay, good. It's tossed out.
But the specific way he restores the property is what makes this a brilliant legal ruling, because he doesn't just hand the land over to Chandrasekhar.
Wait, he doesn't.
No, and he doesn't try to divide it among the siblings right then and there either.
Okay, so what does this all mean? Why not just divide it up? I mean, if the court knows who the real siblings are now, Why not just finalize the inheritance and be done with it?
Because doing that creates entirely new legal entanglements.
How so?
Well, remember the details from the village inquiry. You have surviving sisters, you have a deceased brother, and that deceased brother has a surviving second wife.
Oh, right. The web is complicated.
Exactly. If a revenue court tries to act like a civil court and dictate the exact percentages of a complex inheritance on the fly, it just invites a decade of new lawsuits.
Ah, I see.
So instead, the assistant commissioner orders the local officers to revert the land records, the RTCs, back into the name of the deceased father, Vasudevaro.
Oh, wow. He essentially hits the undo button on the last 3 years.
It is an incredibly elegant legal remedy.
It really is.
By reverting the public ledger back to the dead father, the court creates a clean slate. It completely neutralizes the fraud.
It resets the clock to the exact moment before Ramara's manipulation occurred.
Exactly. And this forces all the legitimate heirs, including Ramarao, because he is, still legally a son despite his actions.
As much as we might not like it.
Right. But it forces all of them to start the partition process fairly, legally, and out in the open through the proper civil channels.
It's like the court said, we are putting this puzzle exactly back in the box where we found it, and you all are going to share it properly this time.
That's a great way to put it.
But wait, Ramaro didn't just lose his stolen land, did he? I mean, submitting a false family tree to usurp acres of property has to be a serious offense.
Oh, the consequences went far beyond just a corrected clerical record.
Tell me he got in trouble.
He did. Chandrasekhar had also filed a formal complaint at the local police station regarding this whole scheme, and the assistant commissioner's legal order explicitly notes that a criminal case was registered.
Excellent.
Yeah, a magistrate took cognizance of the offense under Section 463 of the Indian Penal Code, which specifically deals with forgery.
So Ramarao now has to face the criminal justice system for his bureaucratic sleight of hand.
Yes. He tried to use his insider knowledge to outsmart the system, and the system pushed back.
Hard.
It proves that while modern bureaucracies have massive vulnerabilities that insiders can easily exploit.
Like the silos we talked about.
Right. Those same disconnected silos leave a permanent trail of breadcrumbs. Ramarao's ultimate failure was his arrogant assumption that his 2008 civil court filing would never, ever cross paths with his 2019 revenue claim.
So let's take a step back and look at what we've actually learned here during this deep dive. We started with a retired official's hubris, a man who thought he could use his intimate knowledge of government blind spots to literally erase his own family from existence.
Right.
And we tracked how a siloed bureaucracy, where the tax department doesn't talk to the civil courts, allowed that lie to become official truth. And all it took was a clerk in a city office checking a box on a sworn affidavit.
It's scary how easy it was.
It really is. But then we saw how the meticulous, undeniable reality of a community inquiry broke through that sterile, fake paperwork.
The collective memory of a village proved stronger than a forged government stamp.
It is a powerful reminder for all of you listening right now. Public records are only as accurate as the people who file them.
That is so true.
We want to believe the legal system is this flawless, omniscient machine that protects our rights automatically. But it's really just a collection of people, disconnected databases, and rubber stamps.
Very flawed people sometimes.
Right. If you are ignoring your own family's legal paperwork, if you aren't paying attention to the title documents, the tax liabilities, or just the basic administrative history of your family's assets, you are leaving yourself incredibly vulnerable to someone who is paying attention.
Vigilance is really the only true safeguard.
Especially against a system that can be so easily manipulated by those who know exactly where it isn't looking.
Absolutely.
Which leaves us with a pretty chilling final thought to mull over as we wrap up this deep dive.
What's that?
Well, we only caught Ramarao because he was arrogant enough to leave a contradictory paper trail from a decade ago.
Right.
And because someone like Chandrasekhar cared enough to dig it up and fight it out in court.
Right. Without Chandrasekhar, this goes unnoticed.
Exactly. So if an insider almost got away with stealing acres of prime real estate just by swearing a false affidavit in a neighboring town, how many successful demise land grabs go completely unnoticed every single day?
That's a dark thought.
How many fake family trees are sitting in government filing cabinets all over the world right now, accepted as absolute, unshakable truth, just because there isn't a vigilant family member there to catch the lie?
I bet it's more than we'd like to think.
It really makes you wonder, who really owns the land under your feet? And is the paperwork telling the true story, or just the story someone knew how to put on paper?